Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Imbolc StarGazing Webinar. So Imbolc is traditionally celebrated on February the 1st, which the Christian Church took over as Candlemas, although the actual astrological point of Imbolc is not for a few days yet, 15 degrees of Aquarius. But I really want to look at this February the 1st and February the 2nd because the charts are pretty amazing for this year. So excuse the sort of slightly makeshift background, but I'm currently on this trip that I'm doing in the US and Canada, and I'm recording this from the hostel that I picked to stay in for a couple of nights so that I would have Wi-Fi and a location to record this webinar. So the first thing we're going to do is to look at the two charts for February the 1st and February the 2nd. And they are very unique. They are actually quite rare. And I believe that they offer us a very incredible opportunity for growth and developing our awareness and moving more into the light, moving more into our creative selves. So let's have a look at the charts. So on the left, we have the chart for February the 1st, Saturday, and on the right, we have the chart for February the 2nd, Sunday. They're both done at midday GMT, and they're actually set for Macclesfield, which is just south of Manchester. So just rest your eyes on these for a moment, particularly on the coloured lines in the middle. You can see they both have a blue triangle, and they both have just an isolated blue line. Well, the February 2nd has one blue line, and February 1st, it's two lines very close together. So the first thing we're going to do is to look at these blue lines, which are called aspects. So the aspects are basically representing how the planets are talking to each other. And we have different colours. We have red, green, and blue. As you can see, these two charts don't have any red or green. This is really unusual. But we actually had the same chart on January the 29th, and we'd had a similar one a few days before as well. If you follow me in Facebook or WhatsApp or even LinkedIn or TikTok, I have been talking about this for the last week. I actually mentioned this February the 1st chart about 6 months ago when I saw what was going to happen. So blue aspects are what we call like the chilled out aspects. So red aspects are dynamic. They're challenging. They make us want to do the work because we want to resolve the problems that are existing. Green aspects are learning aspects. They're when we're seeking to understand something. But blue aspects are much more laid back. And when they form this blue triangle, like we see in both of these charts, this is called a talent triangle. It's like an inherent talent, an inherent ability that these planets have between themselves, the way that they're working with each other. And both of the charts have this talent triangle, but they have a different triangle in each chart. So the 2 days are going to be slightly different. So let's look a little bit more at the planets that are involved. So in the chart on February the 1st, the blue triangle connects all those symbols that are in the sign of Pisces at the top of the chart, near where it says number 11. I'm sorry, I'm doing this all on my phone, and my phone doesn't have a cursor. And then we have this long blue line that goes down to Mars in the sign of Cancer. Mars is the symbol that looks a little bit, it looks like the symbol for masculine symbol. And then both of these ends of that blue line come together in a point at Uranus in Taurus. If we look at the other chart, the grouping isn't completely in Pisces anymore. The moon has actually moved into Aries, but there still are the 3 planets in Pisces plus the North Node, but they are now at the apex of the triangle. And the long blue line, which there's 2 of, has the Sun, Mercury, and Pluto at one end. The Sun is the red circle, and Jupiter at the other end. So the 2 triangles involve quite different planets. So let's break this down a little bit more. And I want to look first at what these planets in Aquarius and Pisces are basically saying to us. So let's look at these Aquarius planets first. So we have the Sun, which is a red circle with a dot in the middle. And then we have Mercury, which is like the women's symbol with a little hat on it, and Pluto, which looks like a letter P. Now you can see that the Sun and Mercury are in slightly different positions in both of those circles because they both move relatively quickly. Pluto won't move over one day. But even so, we've got this combination of these 3 planets happening. Now, Aquarius is a fixed air sign. So this air signs are all mental level signs. They're about our thinking. And Aquarius being a fixed mental level sign means that it's a bit like, I always liken it to the guy who did the light bulb, Edison. He tried to create that light bulb something like 10,000 times. And he just kept going and just kept going until until he got it. And he had to use his mental reasoning, but he kept on going. He kept on working at it. So this is a little bit what this Aquarius energy is like. It's a mental reasoning and that just keeps on going. That's why Aquarius rules science, because you have to keep on pushing and pushing the research and thinking, what can I change now? What can I do next to make this, to find the answer, to find the thing I'm looking for that is going to make it work. And the Sun rules the mind, and Mercury is also a sort of mental planet because it's about communication. So we've got this very sort of mentally orientated, seeking for some sort of understanding that is going on. And we're all going through this. This is affecting all of us. Now, add Pluto to the mix. And Pluto is the god of the underworld, but it's also about universal will. And so it's almost like we are being driven by the universal will to expand our minds, to make our minds work for us, to find out what it is that we need to understand next in order to move on. And it's going to be something quite deep and quite profound, because Pluto is always deep and profound. And Pluto in Aquarius is very much, it's about technology, it's about AI, but it's also very much about community. And some of you know now that I was listening to Greg Braden and Bruce Lipton last weekend at the TCCHE conference in San Diego. And one of the things that they said several times is that part of this evolutionary movement that we are in, this evolution of consciousness that we are in, is about the movement from the individual to the group. So they were describing about how, like single-celled organisms, the only way they could evolve, they couldn't get any bigger as a single cell. The only way they could evolve was to start combining with other cells and making a community of cells, an organism that had many cells in it. And they were likening that to where we are at the moment in our evolution as a species of humanity, that it's not about the individual anymore. It's about coming together in community. It's about finding our tribe, if you like. And I'm certainly seeing quite a lot of this. I have a friend who's lived in a block of flats for decades. Nobody ever speaks to each other. Nobody ever did anything with each other. And suddenly they've created a community of everybody who lives in the block in order to look after the block, but also to look after each other. And we're seeing these communities coming up more and more. So maybe there's something here about, thinking about what sort of communities we need to be creating. And that has to be a lot of it in terms of, what sort of community do you want? What do you need? And what can you build around you? What can you create around you that is going to be supportive for everybody in it? And Aquarius is very much about being like-minded. So it could be a community where you all live together because you're all sharing a similar space. A friend of mine, she has now created a neighborhood community to look after the neighborhood, everybody who lives in that neighborhood. Or it may be that you create a community that has a similar passion. But we're really needing to find our tribe who are going to look after each other when the times get rough. And if there's one thing that Bruce and Greg agree on, is that this chaos that we're starting to see going on around us is just the beginning. And we have to go through it. We know whenever there's been an evolutionary leap, it's always been preceded by chaos. And so we need to just welcome it, just accept it for what it is. Be prepared. They suggest having a couple of weeks' worth of food in your house, just in case. But I think particularly about finding your tribe so that you've got other people who you can all rely on each other. You can grow food together, support each other, have, some sort of community food base or community education. So many different things are required for us to work together. So that's just a little bit about the Aquarius grouping. So let's now look at the Pisces grouping. So on February the 1st, the moon is in Pisces, along with Venus, Saturn, and Neptune, and the North Node. The North Node isn't a planet, It's a position in the sky, but it represents our collective forward movement. So basically, we've got these 5 positions in Pisces. On February the 2nd, the moon has already moved into Aries. However, it's still connected to that Pisces grouping. Now, Pisces is all about unity, it's about oneness, it's about the drop of water that falls in the ocean and no longer has the boundaries of being a drop. It is now the ocean, it is now at one with all that there is. Pisces has no boundaries. It's about the dream world where we can go wherever we wish. It's about the imaginal realm where we can go wherever we wish. There are no boundaries. Of course, that can be problematic as well, because, you know, if there's no edges, we can get very lost. And that is a very low vibration side of Pisces. And certainly we're going to be seeing a lot of people who feel very lost. It's like they don't understand what is going on. And maybe even you feel like that too. It's like, what is going on? We don't know. We don't know. And the part of the thing about Pisces is surrendering to that not knowing, but knowing that it could be chaotic. But just to surrender to the process and allow it to happen. That's really what this blue energy is about. These blue aspect lines is about just surrendering to the process and allowing it to happen. When we are able to drop our defenses, if you like, or our control. You know, I've just spent nearly 2 weeks in the US and I am stunned by the level of control. I see control in the gardens. It's like there's control in everything. Everything is controlled to the nth degree, other than how big your coffee cup size is or how big, you know, whether you want to supersize your meal. It's like the freedom that comes in very strange choices, basically consumer choices. But in terms of the environment, it's very, very controlled. And control is a risky state to be in, because if we're too dependent on control, on being controlled or being in control, then when that is taken away from us, we can feel very discombobulated and very lost. It's like, oh, hang on a minute. I was relying on that control and now it's not here anymore. Now, the fact that Saturn is involved will add an element of control. Saturn does like to control. It likes to contain and to hold. And this in itself can be quite problematic. However, that's very low vibration Saturn. If you remember, if you've watched anything I've done before, I'm very much about how the low vibration expresses itself and how we can choose to raise that to a higher vibration. The low vibration will always be the default setting. It will always be what will happen if we're not being aware, if we're not consciously involved in the process. If we're consciously involved, then we can use our free will to raise to a higher vibration. And Saturn at a higher vibration is really helpful. You know, when I was preparing for this trip that I'm on, I was pretty frightened. I was pretty scared. You know, it was an epic adventure that I had decided to embark on. And I could feel Saturn squeezing me in that sort of, raising my cortisol and my adrenaline levels and getting me very uptight and very tense and frightened, because Saturn wants to look after us. It wants to keep us safe. And so it'll say, no, don't go on that trip. It's too dangerous. Too many things could go wrong. And a part of me was like really tipping into that feeling. And I had to keep pulling myself back and going, okay, Saturn, I need you to help me, not make my life more problematic, not make me feel more tense and anxious. I need you to help me. And so I got Saturn to organize for me. Okay, so I'm arriving at this date and I'm arriving at this time. What's the first thing I need to do? I need to get this number bus, and I've booked this hotel, and I need that bus to get to this hotel. And then the next day I need this bus to get to that particular place. And I literally planned the first week step by step by step, so that I knew when I arrived here that all I had to do was follow my plan for at least the first week, which gave me a lot more confidence to just settle in. I knew I'd be tired. I knew I'd be struggling with jet lag. And I was going to be pretty busy. I was volunteering with this TCCHE for 4 days, almost immediately after I arrived. So we can use Saturn to help us plan and structure what it is that we want to create. And we could create anything. I'm creating this big trip abroad, but it may be that you want to create something completely different. Maybe you want to create a new career or a new home, or you want to create a painting or a large piece of artwork, or create, I don't know, a dress or an outfit, or it could be anything. You need Saturn to say, okay, what's the first step? The first step may be, where are you going to get your materials from? Or it may be, how are you going to create the time to do that? And so when we use Saturn to help us, then we can do things step by step by step by step, at least just to get us going until we're into the swing of it. So for the last few days, I didn't have any plans, and I just allowed myself to move into the unknown and see what happens. And magic happened. It was just one magical thing after another. And that, to me, is what all this Pisces energy is about, particularly in combination with the blue aspects. It feels very magical to me, very ethereal. But we have to be willing to step into the unknown. We have to be willing to let go of control. And we have to be willing to do a little bit of structure, a little bit of planning, so that we don't feel completely lost and taken over by our monkey brain, which is basically Saturn saying, no, don't, it's too scary, don't do it. And we just get overwhelmed by cortisol and adrenaline. So we just need a little bit of structure, a little bit of planning to help us feel safe, but not for it to be too tight and too controlled. We also need it to be open to the magic that is there to come to us. So on February the 1st, we've got Mars involved, and that is going to give us the energy to actually step into this place. Mars is a yang energy. It wants to do something. But it's in Cancer, which is another water sign like Pisces. And so it's about feeling our way in, not barging in and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. No, it's about feeling our way into it. All this blue aspect lines is very much about feeling our way in. It's not about barging in there. And then both of these, the Pisces group and the Mars, come together as Uranus in Taurus. And Uranus is always about change. It's about doing something differently. And Taurus is about our material reality. It's about our values. It's about practical things. So this is suggesting that we're moving into an opportunity to move into a different way of doing things, and even a different way of approaching our physicality, about the way that we do something physically. You know how they always say, if you always brush your teeth with your right hand, try brushing them with your left hand. It's about stepping into that unknown and allowing the changes that are there for us, because we have to change. For this evolutionary process to occur in a healthy and creative and highest vibration way, we do have to change. We have to move into this new reality. We have to step into the unknown. We have to let go of everything how it has been, because it's going to be different. And then if we look at February the 2nd, now this Pisces grouping and the moon in Aries is at the apex of that triangle. And it's the Aquarius group that is connecting with Jupiter. So we've got the Aquarius group, which is about thinking about how can we create new communities, how can we think about different ideas, new solutions, try this, try this, try this, try this, try this, until something gives, or asking questions. What can I do next? What would be another good thing to do? Because, we're not curious enough. Most of us, sadly, have had curiosity trained out of us. Children are very curious. But, you get to school, you're in a class of 30 children. They can't afford for 30 children to be curious and all going off in different directions. So you just all have to do as you're told. And so our sense of curiosity is pretty dumbed down. So we need to reawaken that sense of curiosity. Oh, what about if, while I'm making this cake, rather than mixing these two first, what about if I mix those two first? Or what about if I try a different ingredient? What would that be like? We need to be experimenting. Aquarius is the scientist. We want to be experimenting. What would it be like if I brush my teeth with my left hand? Or there's so many things that we could experiment with and have a go at doing in a slightly different way. And Jupiter in Gemini is our thinking mind. It's about our communication. And Jupiter makes everything bigger. So we've got this incredible input, we've gone from the water basis on February the 1st between Pisces and Cancer to the air basis on February the 2nd with Gemini and Aquarius. So it's much more about thinking. So it's almost like on February the 1st, we're being asked to imagine and feel our way into something different. Just to chill out and just imagine different possibilities. Feel what they would feel like. And then on February the 2nd, it's more about engaging our thinking mind and coming up with ideas, making some notes, making a list of all the brainstorming that you're coming up with, and how you can then bring those into the imaginal realm. And with that moon in Aries, initiating a new project, starting something new. So I appreciate this is pretty short for one of my presentations, but as you know, it's a bit different to normal because I'm doing it all on my own. I've not got an audience. I normally have an audience with me, and I might go through things a little bit more slowly, a little bit more specifically. But I really wanted to get this out to you because this weekend, it just feels like such a shifting point. I live with that combination of Pisces and Aquarius, and Einstein had that combination of Pisces and Aquarius. And he always said, you know, I never get anything new from my thinking mind. I always have to reach for something more into that imaginal realm and to play with it, you know, not to force it, but to just allow it to come, to play with those ideas. And with this, all this blue energy, again, it's not something we can force. It's not something we can make happen. We just need to open ourselves to receiving it and allowing our imagination to go where it will and ask questions, you know, with that Aquarius. Say, well, I don't quite understand. How would that work? And what other thing do I need to know about this? But it's just about truly opening to those visions and to the magic that is there for us. I don't know how else to say it. What I did say to my astrology students earlier today was, now that you know we've got this energy over the weekend, is to, as you go through the weekend, to observe what's happening to you, what's coming to you, what are you thinking about, what are you processing, and apply that to this astrology so that you then gain a much more personal viewpoint on what it's about. Now, it might be that it's actually quite problematic for you. One of my students did say that for her, all she felt was exhaustion and overwhelm. And it could well be like that for you too. But just be with it, just allow it, just open yourself to whatever is there for you and let it be. If it's exhausting, just acknowledge it's exhausting and let it be. There's nothing you can do about it in this weekend. It's just about acknowledging where you are and what it's like for you. However, before I close, I would like to tell you a little bit more about the StarWisdom Astrology course, which is now up online and ready to go. The StarWisdom Astrology course. I've been an astrologer for 35 years, and in a way, I've been creating this course for 35 years. You know, when I did my course, it took me 7 years, and most astrologers I know took minimum 2 years, more like some of them up to 10 years, even 15 years to learn their craft. And I get it. Nobody's got the time to do that anymore, let alone the money, because they were very expensive courses. And you can still do them like that. They do still exist. But I wanted to create something different because, you know, all those techniques that I learned, I don't use most of them. You're with somebody for an hour. You can't go through every single technique you learned. It just takes hours to do that. So what I've done is I have taken the techniques that I use consistently and put them into 10 simple lessons. These are all the techniques I use to read a chart. I don't use anything extra. So this course is totally unique. I don't know of another course where you can get everything you need to understand your birth chart or anyone else's in just 10 lessons. So these 10 lessons they're video lessons, they're in YouTube, and they vary in length from 20 to 50 minutes. Step-by-step instructions, lots of visual, because I believe that that's how we learn best. So that's been designed specifically for creative people who learn through visual. The beauty of the astrology that I teach is that it is very color orientated. This is unlike other astrology courses. So I believe that this particular course that I've designed is particularly suitable for creative people. And the fact that it's only 10 lessons means that it's really handy for busy people. And I'd like to read you this testimonial that I received from a dear friend, Branwen. It is an outstanding course. I totally love how engaging and educational it is, and how I can relate to it at so many levels. I also love how it has created a deeper understanding and compassion for myself and others. When we understand our own birth chart, then we understand how we are motivated. And when we understand how we are motivated and we look at other people's charts, we can see how they are motivated. And we can see, the more charts you look at, the more you realize that everybody has a very unique motivation. Nobody's is better, nobody's is worse. They're just all different. And it enables us to be much more accepting of other people, much more compassionate, much more aware, much more welcoming, much less frightened of other people. And remember, we're wanting to create communities. So it's really important that we are able to open our hearts to other people, people who we may not in the past have, gone out of our way to get to know. Now, for a short time, I am offering a totally unique investment. For the first 10 people who contact me, it's not going to be the regular investment of 500. For the first 10 people who contact me, it is only 200. This offer will not last for very long, a few more weeks. It's a strange thing, but what I've noticed is, and anybody who creates something to exchange for finances will tell you that the cheaper something is, the less people want it, because they believe then that it's not valuable, it's not worthwhile. If it costs more, if they have to pay a significantly more, then they will value it a lot more and they will think that it is better. This course is worth a lot more than 200. But because I so want people to learn astrology, and I know that for some people that more than 200 is just too difficult at the moment. And so I want to make it accessible. We so need more people to know astrology is such a useful language and skill and technique. So for the time being, for a very short while longer, because it's already been at this offer for a little while, for a few weeks now, it's going to be 200, and then it will be going up to 500. And maybe for you, that would be a more appropriate investment. However, just wanted to give some people the opportunity to get in there while they can. But the first step is to watch the free introductory video. And I'm going to put the link to it in the description under this video. But you can find the video in my YouTube channel. It's probably underneath this one. But I will put the link in the description to this video. So do watch the introductory video. It's only about half an hour. It's actually got a lot of astrology teaching in it. And that will give you a much better idea of how the course is structured and how it works. So thank you so much for watching, and I wish you all a very blessed Imbolc. I love you all, and I'll see you in 6 weeks for the spring equinox stargazing webinar.